develop, because
Yep.
that's all developable land.
The church parking lot is.
The church could be too. So
The church could,
Trinity Partners Celebration does this all the time throughout the state. They sell
Yeah.
off old church property.
they do.
And when you go past, they've already done one in Germantown, that's gone.
Listen, that's a sore subject, I'm not, geez, you know, I'm not trying
But I
to
mean,
develop.
I want people
Yes,
to know what they
church land is
finished.
developable, I don't
So
see it as
if-
happening, I'm just giving a hypothetical, because that's.
As far as the dollar amount, how many residences are there in Ward 1?
I don't know residences in Ward 1, how's that, about 2,000?
2,000, so
So
Ward 1's
15,000?
10,000?
15, I don't know actual.
15,000?
No, 15,000, so when we
And
did the reshuffle of like
the house-
voter
the-
registration was like 15.
So 200,000 for
households.
the parking lot across from Louis, ballpark?
Value?
No, what would
I
you
think
say?
the 300 was the number, 300,000 was the number.
Yeah, I know it's valued at 190.
I believe it's been appraised at $380,000.
Those two lots are joined together.
Which two lots?
The two lots across.
There's two lots across from Louis. Okay, we're for point of conversation,
the
probably
other-
one, it's appraised apparently at 380.
So what I would like to see, is people want a donation, and I know we can't donate.
Yeah,
So why doesn't the original lien holder donate it? Because he gets lots of benefit.
the original lien
The
holder.
lien holder on the loan at Louis. And whatever you sent out, that was.
I don't have a lien.
Would you speak up, please?
He-
We can't hear you back here. It's like you're having a separate conversation,
Gotcha.
okay?
So I was saying the current lien holder on Louis should donate the land, because that lien holder gets massive benefit from the city, almost unseen out in Squam.
Yeah.
Myron, so you were bringing up earlier about using the hotel, basically the hotel motel tax the city has, towards revenues, towards acquiring, if I understood this correctly.
It was an
acquiring-
idea.
Just an
I
idea.
haven't even talked to the mayor about it. I mean, this
Right,
is like,
of course
she
not.
said, what could you do? That popped in my head. Go ahead.
So, about acquiring that, using it, because essentially what that does, takes that from a private parking lot owned by a restaurant corporation, which then makes it become public land, which is
Correct.
accessible for anybody who wants to park at the PL, or
Yeah.
even if they live in the area and just use public lot. Is that correct?
Correct.
Alright, so what?
It'd have to maybe be rules on overnight parking or something, because like Main Street lots, everything. So I don't know what the policy would be. Hey, I got my own personal parking spot and I live on Homestead Ave. So before you go that far, I don't know
I was
how
gonna
that
say,
would work.
so just
Yeah.
based on the amount of, I know that the plan right now as far as redoing the Maritime Center and the PL is to acquire the 3 pieces of property between Louis
Yep,
and the ocean.
yes.
So, if the city's expending that much money into acquiring land behind Louis, how much are they gonna, like, what's the plausibility of them even redifferentiating money that they're getting in to acquire land across the street from Louis?
It's an option. That is an option.
Do you think that's something that Mayor Koch would even be open to? I mean, you
I
have.
think he has a mayor, he has a representative here at this meeting to hear the appetite of the neighborhood. Would he be open? Would they are nodding their heads?
The city remains interested in the Louis parking lot as part of the overall maritime plan. How we finance that is an open question. $300,000 was the price that was originally discussed. When you talk about capital items, the city does spend money on new schools, roads, bridges, those sorts of things. $300,000 isn't a deal breaker for the city. It's not overly burdensome. We think, as opposed to the perception which is okay that somehow this is a bailout, the city does own public parking facilities that do support businesses. This would be a public parking facility that supports a business, but it also supports a bigger piece of activity in that area. The city remains interested, unfortunately, and the property owner has rights. We're not moving fast enough for the property owner. He has rights. They have rights. We would love to have another stab at the property. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, that's the way it goes. But the mayor, the councilor, we remain just as interested 2 years ago just as interested tonight as we did 2 years ago.
Sir, to keep it at, sorry, Tony, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask you about the 300,000.
Yep.
Is that currently in the finance committee at the moment?
No.
No, it's not.
It's not.
No, it
It was
was,
before the council.
it was, and then,
Introduced without knowledge of the ward counselor.
did we
It
do
was
that?
withdrawn, yes. You might want to communicate, kind of like the blind side I got with this application. John,
Yeah, just a question. This is coming before the zoning board within the next couple of weeks, correct?
February 28th, 7:15 p.m.
And the
City Hall.
city has you know, the number being thrown around is $300,000. City has no, I mean, it's just the number being put out there,
Yeah.
okay? The city has no firm plan on buying this.
Correct.
He gets relief from the zoning, I'm a developer, I come down and offer him $400,000 for the
Right, why
property.
would
He's
you
crazy
give it
not
to
to
us?
take it, right? So we're kind of leaving ourselves wide open for that?
It's competitive marketing once we agree to let it go. It's basically open to whoever.
Well, wait, if you don't agree to let it go, you can go to the zoning board and oppose it and say, don't subdivide it.
They do.
I'm just, yep.
Is the city's plan to, man's representative, to keep it as a parking lot?
It would be, absolutely.
Or are we gonna try, look for more money and start park benches and put another parking that the city can't afford to upkeep it? No, I'm not trying to be a wise guy here tonight, but I hear park
Are you helping
benches
by
and
saying past material, because you're on a roll.
why does the city want a borrowed parking lot? It's bizarre.
We don't want a bar room parking lot, we want public parking that serves, happens to serve a bar room, but also serves a maritime facility. If the yacht club gets up and going again, it's a public parking lot. It's like the Main Street parking lot in North Quincy, that serves the Irish pub. It's like the Hancock lot in Quincy Center. It's like the Ross Garage, or what was the Ross Garage. You know, the city does own and operate parking facilities. It's not inconceivable that the city would come in and say, hey, look, there's a business there, there's some other opportunities, why don't we go in and purchase this and make public parking? That's not out of this world.
Deed restricted open space, so the city isn't then gonna flip it to a developer. If that's what you'd be worried about, it would be deed restricted open space.
We should put meters up too.
Ron Decker, double
Dog
space.
Quincy, double.
Excuse me, did the offer to buy Louis about 2 years ago in this legal? What was the result of
Wait,
that?
did you hear that? Wait, wait, wait.
I asked the question, the city offered to buy Louis' parking lot a couple years ago?
We were virtually in the same position then. There was discussions, early discussions about the Maritime Center. There was early discussions about the future of Louis.
But an offer was made and it was declined?
Well, there's a process, it's public governance, so there's a process there. It has to be appraised formally, it has to go before the city council, it has to go through a process. So there was no acceptance of offer, there was no rejection of offer. It was taken,
What was the offer?
It was taken a step back. I think it was about 300.
Okay.
And I'm
It's a
not,
verbal, so I understand it to be a verbal conversation that the owner of Louis had with the mayor that came up with the number of 300,000. That was where the discussion was had, and at the time, the appetite of the neighborhood was quite mixed, and it got tabled, the Maritime Center project. We've been talking about it a long time.
So at the end of the day, this was rejected because for some other reason, or it didn't go forward for some
I
other
wouldn't
reason?
call it rejected. I think that a step back was taken. There were concerns raised.
Why was there a step back?
You know, it's now 2 years ago. I think that there
this was
was
the same
the
place we
appetite,
are
it might have been quite simply that the appetite of the city council, the way it was perceived, the way that it was discussed, the process didn't work. It could have been that simple.
So, let's just say realistically, the city and the gallery is gonna get together and say, you know, this is an agreement we wanna go forward with and move forward with, mutually beneficial for both parties. Best case scenario, what exactly would be the time frame as far as getting all that done? It's not a little, like a lengthy process, and I don't wanna have Louis folds during this process if it takes too long.
Okay, so Chris, timeline, did the city do an assessment? Or has an assessment been done in the property that you're saying 380 is the assessed value?
I honestly, I don't know how far along in that process we are. My gut tells me that we would have to get it formally appraised again, and that number would be the number that's before the city council.
How long does this process usually take?
If we presented
3
it,
months? I mean, I'd
Yeah.
say it would be an aggressive schedule.
yeah,
Or if people, or a year, if people don't like it.
not something, if we get it to the point where it's ready to be before the city council, you're talking months, not a year. Months at the most, because, you know, there is a process at the city council, there are a lot of things on the council's plate. A lot depends on the timing and how that all works, but it would be, at the most, if we got it in several months, not a year.
By June, potentially? And that's aggressive. So before the council recesses for the summer?
But this is still a conjecture.
But the question is process, right? So is the appetite of this move forward? I mean, you gotta give a direction as to what to come back that this neighborhood wants. If this neighborhood's sending the message that, yes, we the neighborhood want to maintain a restaurant in the community, we the neighborhood want the city to pursue it, then that's my job to go back to the mayor and say, we want to pursue this. If it's no condos, and we want land control, so a few of you made the point, what if we pass? And then, this is just a comparison, because it's a recent case in the news, so it's something people can relate to. So for example, opiate addictions have been a real big issue. The Houghs Neck Community Council was one of the first out of the gate talking about this and destigmatizing it, and because we have people in this neighborhood brave enough to share their personal stories and make it real for many of us. Well, the Phoenix House opened across from Coffee Break in Wallaston, it's Zone Residence B. No neighborhood meeting, nothing required by right. Phoenix House moved in and the neighbors were up in arms. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't we know? Why didn't we get a say in this? Zoning, the property has right, did I say residence B, business B? The property has rights, so that could be, they sell Louis, a restaurant doesn't want to go, a medical use like the Phoenix House moves in by right. Now that's not a threat, I'm just giving you an understanding of something that happened in another neighborhood where they felt blindsided. So is it a matter of there's access to land control, we can all see that there's opportunity for shared use with the yacht club, with the Maritime Center, with the field, and with the restaurant. If it's a shared use, then there's value. If it's, you know, yes, will Louis' customers still park there? Yes. Will people going over to Pettis Island park there? Yes. Are people, right now it's the winter, we have a big event at the yacht club? Yeah, you're going to be up there. No one's going to say where you're going. You know, that it'll be shared. So I think that's the understanding that we need to have coming out of this meeting going forward. DJ.
I got a couple of questions. One is, who actually owns Louis? Who are the owners of Louis?
Good question.
Because I think it's relevant to what's going on.
Sure. Who owns Louis?
Bob Galligan and his wife Donna own Louis. They own the land and the business.
There's no silent partner in that?
No.
Well, I have been, you know, going back and forth for a long time, period of time. I understand O'Connell has a significant part of this, and he's pushing this deal because he wants out of it. He wants calling in his money into it. And the other thing is what you said earlier, is that just what went out there with the China. Whatever we believe in here, the zoning board, if they grant it, they're just gonna walk over us anyways because they're gonna give it to them.
I disagree. I disagree. The zoning board has supported me in many cases that we have, you know, for example, down here, there was a lot of people at a single family home. I wanted to, hey, we put it in a legal basement apartment, but we're gonna make it legal. Nope, zoning board has stood by us every single time. So it's all about protecting the integrity of the neighborhood. So the zoning board is very supportive every time I've asked for their support.
Are there silent partners in that?
Peter O'Connell has a second mortgage on the property. He's not, he doesn't own the business. He doesn't own the property.
Peter has never made a communication to me relative to this parcel.
Councilor Forrest, can I ask one quick question?
Sure.
Attorney Harrington, how many square feet in the lot of land they're looking to sell?
Do you have
It's
the
about
map?
11,000.
11,000 square feet. I've been to a lot of zoning meetings and a lot of planning meetings over the last years, and what the gentleman said is that everyone could stand up here against a project and the zoning could still give them their variances. So what we need is less density. You know, maybe a win-win for everybody. From the people in this room, I see that this is going to happen. And what we can do is mitigate the damage and have less density. If he wants to sell the lot and he's not a part of the development, he's not going to get much more money for the lot, whether he sells it as a single-family lot or sells it as multis. Put a single-family home there. Put a deed restriction that you can only build a single-family home there if you split the deed.
You can't split zone. You can't do that. You can't change zone.
He can build a single family. Like Attorney Harrington, they're building right now 28 units where Murphy Brothers is on 57 Quincy Shore Drive. It's only an 11,000 square foot lot, same lot size. So if they subdivide this lot, they could get the variance and O'Connell could build 28 units there, and there's nothing that anyone can do except watch the construction when you drive by it every day.
I'm sure you are. You've seen my presentations in many zones.
If they're gonna give relief from the attachment of the lot to the restaurant, the city is gonna give the relief. What's gonna be in it for the city? Once that relief is given, granted, that means the land is open to the highest bidder.
So, I would say, good point, and it goes to your point about the market. Personally, I can't support straight up subdivision of this property without a plan, right? So if, as it is today, to subdivide it and sell it and let's figure it out, that is not good for this neighborhood, right? Because we all understand parking use is needed, right? I think everyone says, to subdivide straight, no plan, no go, right? So, with that, I would say, as presented, you go to the zoning board with strong opposition. Absolutely not, we need parking in the neighborhood, the business fills the parking lot, so that's one conversation, right? Is how do you manage that? Then, the second piece is there value in the city as a shared parking space? Two different conversations, to just let it go and subdivide and then the city fight? No, you don't let them, my thought would be, you go to the zoning board meeting, we all say, we're opposed to the subdivision, they could either withdraw without prejudice, or we can have this conversation now where we say, my thought would be if the city's interested, you postpone the zoning till you work out your deal with the city, and then you subdivide with a deal in hand. You don't just straight subdivide.
Yes.
No way. I mean, there's no support for a straight subdivision, let's figure it out.
So what you're
Last time
saying,
we had this meeting, there was a plan for 4 condos coming online with it.
so what you're saying is the land gets subdivided with the understanding.
Nope, I wouldn't subdivide it until that understanding was in writing.
So there's
I
an
think we don't let this happen
understanding
until
that
there's a
the
plan.
city would acquire that
So
lot.
process for them. So they, the property owner, have rights. What their rights are saying, we want to sell. A lot of times, projects get done permit pending. We want to sell permit pending. No developer would say, I'm gonna take a crack at this. It's loud and clear, condos are not wanted in Houghs Neck, right? So that's loud and clear. So no developer is gonna buy a permit pending because they're not gonna make the expenditures of planning a project. So you're not gonna see that happen here. Now, if they said we have a lot free and clear to sell that's basically in Houghs Neck, different story. So to me, the way I see it as, straight subdivision would then make way for figure it out down line. It doesn't sound to me that's what this neighborhood wants. If there's appetite for, let's all work together, let's put a representative of the yacht club, a representative lieutenant from the Maritime Center, bring someone from Louis and bring a couple of the neighbors to understand if we want to do this as a community, I'm willing to take that feedback back. And I'm sure that the applicant would continue the zoning matter till we say, okay, we came in an agreement, $300,000, and here's the source of funding. But that has to be supported. This poor man has been like for an hour.
I'm used to being
Bill's one of my stalkers. He's in everything. It's a little creepy.
That's slander.
Oh.
First off, there are a couple of problems here.
It's slander from him. That's awesome, right? For those
Talk a little louder.
On parking, for example, the maritime parking thing, technically it's being allowed by exception. You got to be careful. If you keep making exceptions, you end up with problems. Next, Margaret keeps saying Louis has a right to develop because of zoning. They don't. They currently have a zoning restriction by the zoning board that does not allow them to sell it, does not allow them to subdivide. It's currently off the table. The only way that's possible is if ZBA makes a change. Margaret then gives 2 examples. She talks about China. The problem with her example is, in this case, we're not talking about China opening up and they're saying there's public parking. We're talking about Louis wanting to get public parking and take 24 spaces out of the available pool. I'm not sure Land Court's going to bite on that. They might not. But that presents a problem. We're talking about taking, if it sells and subdivided, that's 20 spaces off. Additional housing presents some overflow and takes some curb parking away because of the cuts for their property. Next, Margaret talks about the church lot. The church lot. Well, the Catholic Church is going to de-real estate. We all know that. And they're probably at some point going to put some of that property in. If they were to sell some of the lot to the city, that's a little different proposition because you've got a park nearby, you've got other public use. The problem with this, at the end of the day, is where the council's trying to push this, is to try to figure out a way to find some tax dollars to buy this parking lot to provide relief to a public business, and oh, by the way, we'll make a little bit of space available for the rest of the community. That's not a good use of public use.
Tell everyone where you live.
I never want one.
Okay, where?
No, allow me to, the problem Again, how do you do this? When downtown businesses during the reconstruction of Hancock Street asked for parking relief in the city's employee lot, they were promised it. It never happened. They never have done other stuff. They've taken stuff off the street. You've got development coming down here. You've got the yacht club reopening. You've got some businesses. You've got Louis getting back up to speed. Louis' owner himself said, I'm trying to expand and trying to make this more of a destination restaurant. And I want to sell my parking lot. You can't.
You're right. What are you doing, both pieces of land gets sold?
Pardon?
Then they sell both pieces of land,
No,
then where are we?
they have to get that
They could
approved.
split it, they could sell it anyway.
Condos everywhere.
They have to.
No, they have to.
They're obligated to have that
Can I
parking.
answer this question?
Yes.
They absolutely don't have to get the ZBA's permission.
Thank you. Right.
It's in the condition to rebuild Louis. So if they were willing to close Louis, they could sell the lot and they could sell
Okay,
Louis.
but keeping
But they have to
Louis,
close the rest of
keep
it.
Louis without getting a variance.
With cars on.
They can't sell the parking lot and keep Louis without getting a variance.
That's
Correct.
correct.
So they have no right at this moment.
So-
Right.
That's my point.
Moving on from this, what is the appetite of this community? Because tonight, I think, is it pretty evident for them to straight up subdivide with no plans, strong opposition. Now, options.
City buys it.
City buys it, shared use, tax dollars, hotel motel tax, what are you comfortable with?
Yes.
Is there a show of hands for support of doing what it takes to keep a family restaurant in the neighborhood? Okay, who's counting? Someone I want pictures.
Wait a minute. Right there, Margaret.
Strong support in general, keeping a family restaurant in the neighborhood, high value by everybody. Next question, we're working through, seeing where this is.
No, that's gonna be used against us.
I'm not tricking anybody, I'm trying to understand. Yes, we still.
Kind of seems like
I mean, we can just go, we don't have to have this conversation, we all go to the zoning board with pitchforks and say we're opposed and this is end of story. So we can do that too. Let's go, we can just straight up do that.
Kind of seems that's where we're going.
That's where we're going.
Hands in favor?
Everybody in favor?
So option B is go to the zoning board, express your opposition and request that the zoning board supports the neighborhood. That's option B. We can do that. We can do that anyways. Let's do that in 2 weeks. Say we're opposed to this. They can then withdraw without prejudice or try and fight through the city with the zoning land board. That's option C. And then option D is the neighborhood comes together as a community. Anybody want to, let's see, if we get 300 people to throw in $1,000, anybody want to go that route? I get two.
We get legit.
Seriously, you have 300 people want to throw in $1,000?
Do I get my own bar seat?
In 2 years, when it goes under, because there's no parking,
It's like mug, those restaurants that have like buy your own bar mug.
Can we wrap up?
$1,000 you buy a mug at Louis, you save to a parking spot.
Let's go.
I'm just saying, private funding is an option, and then there's the city funding, whether it's hotel motel tax, whether it's capital improvement plan, those are some funding sources that could be options. But is this neighborhood support buying this parking lot for a shared community use? Straight up, do you support the acquisition of a parking lot for shared community use? Raise your hands. Yes.
For $300,000?
For $300,000, going once, going twice.
Why won't the city? Why doesn't the city do it then? Why does he take that off?
The city wants to do that. Taxes are up to date. So $300,000. Going once, going twice sold, I mean, is that what we're saying? That's a comfortable number of tax dollars? I was told 300,000, that was the number that came to me. I don't know, let's get, okay, so next step, we go back, we get a formal assessment, we present it to the community. This is what the assessment came back, we have a meeting, and then funding source would be identified, would come into the city council for a vote. That would be the process. So we could.
It didn't work in 2 years though.
Well, I think we all had a lot of other things going, and then strong voices that showed up tonight that had plenty of notice, that was very well publicized, seems to all want the same thing. So it's pretty easy politically now to go back and say, strong appetite from the community, acquisition for shared use, that benefits the yacht club, that benefits the Maritime Center, that benefits the restaurant, benefits the playground, benefits the neighborhood. I would like, if anyone is strongly opposed to that, to not be blindsided by, geez, Margaret, my hand didn't go up and you didn't see me. So please, if you are strongly opposed to that, identify yourself to me after the meeting so that I have an opportunity to understand what wasn't voiced here tonight, because that's
Margaret,
important.
I think the zoning board needs another
Who's
continuance,
against
because I don't think anyone knows what they want and how to go about it. So I think we have to stop the process.
And I think we can ask for continuance, that's fair.
I mean, no one seems to be in agreement on how to do this. I mean, we all want one
Two
thing.
things. The zoning board is a process. We can go there in 2 weeks. The ask for the zoning board is straight subdivision, no plan. I'd say 100% of this room, well, maybe 95% of the room is opposed to subdivision, no plan. So we could go there and have the zoning board deny it. However, then when we want to buy it, they still need to vote the process to subdivide it. So we would have kicked ourselves because you've got to, there's a lag for submitting for reapproval. So their process would be to withdraw without prejudice to give the city time to figure this out. They might say, we don't want the city's offer, we want to try with zoning board and land court. They have the right to do that. It is not a smart decision. The zoning board has been very strongly supportive of the neighborhoods consistently. John?
I just want to make one comment. This isn't subdivision, no plan. This plan has been the same for over 2 years.
No, there's
If
nothing developable.
if this passes, you're gonna have Louis, and you're gonna have 4 townhouses across the street. Or you're gonna have Louis and a parking lot that's owned by the city of Quincy. That's essentially.
Sounds like a threat.
It's not a threat. Four units is the by right use of a business being lot, that's all.
If you get the approval.
If you get the approval to stop.
There's no approval, it's a building permit.
If you get the approval, you have to
No,
have that
that's your
restriction
approval to
removed
subdivide.
in order to do
Yes,
that.
yes,
Tom?
yes.
I have a process question as far as the licensing board. Is the licensing board just totally out of the picture here as far as their requirements for restaurants, especially Louis with the 96-seat restaurant requires 24 parking spaces? Will that threaten Louis' licenses?
Because, for example, the public parking rule applies.
Okay.
So they have access to the same number of spots because they can count those public spots as, even though they're shared use spots, they still capture them.
I just remember Joe Shea always pulling his hair out at these license board meetings saying, restaurants that want the seating, we don't have the parking, and he's scratching himself till he bleeds. And he's going, I want to be fair to everybody, I got to take everything in a single case, but then he brings up other restaurants that either allowed it or disallowed it, and that was his big stickler as far as restaurants having available parking for their customers.
Correct.
Doesn't
Now,
public
it's
parking have
about how,
restricted use?
it can have restricted use.
It has restricted use.
It has restricted use.
It has restricted use.
What has public?
The public,
The trailer lot currently has restricted use. We are in the process of working with DCR relative to that, and not to say we don't say X amount of, that it doesn't stay the exact same the way it is now. That's what's on the books today with the trailer lot. It's a designated state property trailer lot. As part of this improvement process, we're working with them. We're co-applicants on our permits for the boat
but
ramp
right
with
now,
them.
where are the 24 spaces that they have?
If you're Louis. I'm sorry.
With the parking lot being gone,
No.
now where are the 24 spaces?
Whose parking lot's gone? If the city buys Louis' parking lot, the 24 spaces stay.
Stay.
Yeah. So when he's
If they
saying to
vote
the
this-
point of the licensing board, when they're capturing, for every 4 seats, you need 1 parking lot, is what Tom's referring to. And where do you find, how do you qualify where those spots are? And so they're gonna say, well, there's 24 spots in the Louis lot, there's 20 spots at Fensier, there's 10 along the, so, right, but they still get to capture that number, because it would then be public parking.
But the scenario actually is, Louis is gone to townhouses. Now where are the 24 spots? That's the question.
That's what I meant.
So the Louis lot, I do not envision Louis lot possibly getting permitted for development. I know he's saying that, it's saying, hey, we're gonna separate it, and the plan would be to build 4 condos. This entire room is gonna show up to say, we do not want condos, do not let them subdivide.
So what's the problem?
So let's leave everything the way it is.
Exactly. What's the
Because
problem?
they wanted to apply. Dan.
Because the problem with it is that if you leave it as is, essentially, and the Galligan family doesn't have to open their books, they're a private business, but essentially what he stood up here and said, Louis is not on the up and up as far as finances go. So the option is either
They're going
leave
out
the
of
lot
business.
and keep it all combined.
lot full all the time.
Yeah,
But
he's
even
not saying
having
fraud,
more
I
trouble.
think he's
What's
saying
gonna be
they're
better?
struggling. That was maybe didn't come out right.
So I don't know, I don't know what the books look like for
With
Louis,
a full
I don't
parking
care to
lot,
know.
he's having problems.
So there's financial matters, there's financial concerns.
The
Go ahead.
problem ends up being is that if you don't do something, essentially what you just heard is that if they don't do something, John stood up here at the beginning of this and said, we'll have to reassess what I'm gonna do with my life and this restaurant. So then it comes down to possibly closing the restaurant, which then at that point, the restaurant and its business could be sold off, which, as John mentioned earlier, the only people that had come up to him when he had the restaurant up for sale a number of years ago were developers. So if Louis goes out of business, closes up shop, and goes about it, you don't need to have, they're not two separate buildings anymore, you have two separate lots individually, and then you can have developers come in and develop one thing one way, and develop another thing another way.
Maybe a restaurateur who wants it, who will do a better job.
So he's tried that.
Chance.
At what price?
Why would a
The
restaurant?
reality is, you gotta live in Houghs Neck to operate a Houghs Neck restaurant. We're so
they're gonna
insular,
kill
it's
the
like
restaurant.
Cheers. The reason we all go there is because we all wanna see each other. That's why you go there. It's the quality of people that you get to hang out with, that's why you go there. I mean, the food's good.
In the food.
You're there for the people, I'm there for, Carlos P. Ramos.
Change the name to Cheers.
It should be, Houghs Neck Cheers.
Cheers, and we'll get some visitors down.
All right, Jeff,
2 points. You said that, like it's,
thank you.
correct me if I'm wrong, like a detox center or something to do in there by right.
Correct.
The community could defeat it. You had,
No.
yes, they can.
No,
They
they
tried
don't.
going in next door to my house on Business B in Quincy Center. Sean Sheehan from Quincy Hospital, when they took the detox out, they tried moving right next door to me. We made it so miserable for them, they walked away. So it can be done.
So Phoenix House moved into walls to
I
a
know,
building permit.
but I think if that was fought right, it could have been defeated.
I disagree.
And,
I disagree.
well, we were able to do it, you could ask Sean Sheehan from the detox. The other point is, I understand why people don't want condos here, but there's other areas in the city that are zoned business B, where condos are being pushed in against the neighborhoods, where the neighborhoods don't want them. And so,
Brian Calamucci's trying to stop that right now, I read it in the newspaper.
well, but my point is, this is your neighborhood, so you don't want them. I understand that, but there's other areas in the city where you represent, people don't want the condos and you're supporting them.
So I give every one of those proposals, so here's the process and here's my job. A developer comes to me, or typically the attorney calls me, hey Margaret, so-and-so bought a project at, I can almost have you answer this question without me having told him. First thing, before you even begin your project, neighborhood meeting. I want you to meet with the neighborhood and understand, and let's talk about what you're proposing. I don't get to say, hey, it would be great for me, can you put a restaurant there, can you put a retail shop? I like to support local art, would you do that? I don't get to couch what they decide to do. You're the property owner, it's your rights, it's your proposal, you come in. I pre-game neighborhood meeting, first things first for all these big projects. Then they have a planning board review and site plan review. Not only are these projects, these condo projects you're referencing, coming in with their project plans, they have to have their own traffic engineer. There's a whole checklist of things they need to go through. In addition, the city requires the developer pay for peer review. So we have every one of our department heads, our public works commissioner, our traffic engineer, the fire chief wants to make sure there's adequate water supply getting to the site. All of our department heads review it. Then we require you to pay a peer review because we want an independent traffic engineer, an independent stormwater engineer. So those projects go through a heck of a lot of process, and those projects have rights. So for you to just to say, well, it's Houghs Neck and Margaret doesn't want condos, she'll stop them versus the other neighborhood is really disingenuous.
Did the
Because come to every meeting, they're all on my page, all on my website. It's very well promoted to every
Did the traffic
neighborhood.
engineer do any study on this property here?
Nope, there's nothing pending before then.
But
If
that
it
would
went to
be,
planning board, if they were gonna build 4 condos, they'd be required to do a traffic review.
but that would be a nice thing to have when you came to the meeting tonight, to be able to say to the traffic
Yes,
engineer.
No, again, you're not gonna pay downline the permitting, and then the talk is this, the zoning is business B, and allowed by right is a restaurant. That creates so much traffic. Residential housing is the most minimal detriment to a neighborhood. You're not having an uptick. It's a no-brainer on what's gonna drive more people, a business B use or a residential use. It doesn't need a traffic engineer to tell you what's gonna drive more traffic to a site at the dead end of a peninsula. I mean, come on, Diane.
So
could get, if you did end up selling both, and condos were to go up or whatever, is it correct in saying they would absolutely have the right to do that, or could the whole city go up and? So site plan review, it would be a process, there would be planning board, there would be zoning board, the same process that we had when Jeff Schnepp permitted her, Harvey, sorry, same process, planning board, but there are some things by right. So for example, just to keep it simple, say you had a 7,650 square foot single family lot. So he could subdivide it and say, we're gonna put 2 buildable single family lots, a developer could go up, go to 55 C Street, here's my plans and I'll get a building permit. It's not in the floodplain, just by right build it. So there are projects that could go forward without a process. Now the developer, I mean, let's talk about it, it's all about dollars of real estate. Houghs Neck real estate is rising, the developer's gonna want the most density, so they're probably gonna come forward with, hey, we want the 4 townhouses parking under 2.5 stories up. Now, you're triggering a different threshold, so quite a hypothetical with your question as to what could be done and what someone would want to do. They're going to want to maximize their investment, that's the reality. I have had developers call me, in fact, the developer that partnered with Jack Jeanette called me and said, that's what we want to do, we're right here, don't worry about the city buying Louis, we'll buy it, this is what we want to do. I'm like, that's not going to fly, not going to fly. But it can. It could, right? I'm just saying, I mean, those are the options. So I appreciate everyone being here. It's an hour and a half that you've been here. I would love, like I mentioned earlier, if there's someone strongly opposed to this being the track of forward progress, come see me so that I hear it from you. You've all seen this. I don't want to walk out of there with, oh yeah, I didn't raise my hand, she didn't listen to me. Come to me, be open with your thoughts. It's important that I hear all of your concerns. There's some of you who are immediate abutters, that when this is going to infiltrate your neighborhood and your impact is going to be different. I understand you might not want to voice that amongst the entire neighborhood, but I would hope that you're comfortable. I know just about every single person in this room very well, most of you my whole life. I hope that you come forward to me and share your opinion because it does matter. And that's my job, is to express your opinion and represent it all back to the zoning board. I think the ask is going to be that the zoning board get continued, that there's opportunity to work it out for a shared community use. I am slated for a yacht club, Peter, not house committee, what's his,
Executive board?
executive board, next Thursday possibly, would that make sense? I will bring it to them, I was just meeting with them in general, and I will mention it to them, make sure that is something. I'm sure they're clamoring for parking, everyone's clamoring for parking. The best part about living in Houghs Neck is the strong sense of community, that we do have these assets. To your point, Patty, it is valuable. I'll tell you, when we were talking about metrics in real estate and the demographic, Houghs Neck was ranking really low, and here I am like, are you kidding me? You've been in my house, in the water, how can you tell me this isn't a strong neighborhood from real estate metrics? Because you're so far of your commute, you're accessible by public transportation, but you're at the end of the line. You don't have access, it's like the food oasis. You don't have access that people want to walk to these restaurants. So we kind of get demerited for that. I'm good if it keeps our property rates down here. I like being the best kept secret, but that's the reality. There's good quality in having a family restaurant in the neighborhood. So I appreciate your time. I think I heard your concerns. One-on-one, you want to talk flood map, seawall,